Past performance may not be indicative of future results. Therefore, no current or prospective client should assume that the future performance of any specific investment strategy, including the investments and/or investment strategies recommended and/or purchased by advisor, or product made reference to directly or indirectly will be profitable. Different types of investment involve varying degrees of risk, and there can be no assurance that any specific investment will either be suitable or profitable for a client's investment portfolio. No client or prospective client should assume that any information presented serves as the receipt of or substitute for personalized investment advice from the advisor or any other investment professional.
Welcome to the Bullington Capital Report, hosted by Bill Bullington. For the next hour, you'll receive information on current market conditions and trends that could affect your financial future. If you have a question, you can participate in today's program by calling 216-901-0945. That's 216-901-0WHK. You can also reach Bill by going to his website, bullingtoncapital.com. And now, here's Bill Bullington.
Well, welcome back. It's been an interesting week, and lots of stuff is. There's always a lot of stuff going on anymore. It is hilarious. But anyway, I'm going to try today. We're going to talk a little bit about investing in stock markets at this time of year. Is it the best thing to do? By the way, I'm not a big believer in market timing. In fact, I am totally against it. And the vast majority of people just don't realize. No, I shouldn't say vast majority, but there's a large portion of the population who thinks that professional investors somehow forecast what the market's going to do in advance, and that's really not how it's done. You really want to get as familiar as you can with the amount of risk that's involved in the funds that you're using and the strategies that you're using. And I know most people don't want to do that because it is a lot of work. It's a tremendous amount of work. And so I'm going to take a few minutes every week from now on and just kind of talk about some of the very specific strategies. Now, a lot of these are available in exchange-traded funds, and I use those predominantly in my practice now. And but they're not all the same, and I guess it would be nice if it were that easy and you didn't really have to know that much. But realistically, I'm looking at when I do portfolio reviews, which are free, by the way. You could call me. Send me a list or just bring your statements into the office. I can tell you immediately what's in there. And I think it's kind of funny. The overlap in the funds that people are holding is mind-boggling. And I'm looking at this and I'm going, why? I understand. I get it. It's not an easy thing to do. The really good software that will show you all the positions that are in the funds that you have. It's very expensive, I know, because I pay for it myself. In fact, ours, I'm pretty sure we're paying close to $40,000 a year now just for the software. And that's before I open my door, pay rent, electric, Gary Melissa's pay. Those are my two assistants in the business. Two of the best I've ever seen in the business, and so you got to pay them well. And man, it's I'm not sure I would do that. I would have the guts to do this again. No, it's all fine. But anyway, I lost my whole track of thought track there. I was talking about August. August being one of the toughest months of the year. September is also very difficult. And I'm not sure why. In fact, nobody really is. We used to think it was because all the portfolio managers were trying to get their vacations in. But now computers are running more money than people are. I mean, they're running a lot more money. And it's why it's so important to know how are the computers selecting the stocks. They call it an algorithm. It's their secret formula, and it's not a uh, super difficult thing to figure out over if you put enough time into it. But before you invest in something, that instead of just looking at which things have just gone up the most, then you might want to figure out why they've gone up, and they won't always go up, and that's where people make the biggest mistakes. They'll be investing in something because it's just had a really good time period, and yeah, a good 12 or 18 months when a fund is in favor will make the 3, 5, and 10-year track record look really good, okay? And you won't know why the performance has done so poorly after you bought it. You'll just think you just have bad luck, and reality is it is bad luck because if you don't want to rely on luck, figure out what kind of formulas. Just read about it, and that's what we do. And I'll explain it to you so you don't have to. If you come in, there's literally almost I can't imagine there being securities out there that are pooled securities that I don't have access to or haven't had access to for an extremely long time period. Now, if it's a private fund, that's a different thing. They don't actually they're not even required to show you some of the private funds. It's one of the reasons I stay away from those too. I have no idea what is actually in the fund, and if you read the fine print, they can basically do whatever they want, and there's nothing you can do about it. And if they lose all your money, oh well. So they to make things a little more complicated. But anyway, it's interesting. This newsletter I send out, I just started sending it on a weekly basis. They're literally, I select from these articles that are suggested, and I'll typically send 4 or 5 that I like a lot. And this one is very interesting because it talks about the late summer period, how difficult markets are in August and September. And when I was new in the industry, I can't believe how long that's been. It was actually it was more pronounced. Those months were horrible. So if you had any junky stocks or really risky stocks that you were looking at investing in, best to wait for August, September, because oftentimes the sell-off would come and hit those stocks really hard, and then you could step in and pick them up and get a good deal. Today, I don't think individual stock picking is something that people should be doing. I don't do it for myself anymore. Well, I shouldn't say that. It's less than 10% of my money. So if I lost the whole thing, it wouldn't matter. And that's the way I feel is probably appropriate for most people today because you're busy. Now, think about it. Kids, grandkids, if your kids are just now going to college, there's all the havoc that right before they go. If you got small children that are getting ready to go back to school in the next couple of weeks, the amount of time that you're going to have to run individual stock portfolios is next to nothing. And realistically, if there are strategies out there that you like, somebody's probably already doing it, and probably more than once. There's more than one type of fund that's doing what you think you would be most comfortable with. And that's the key, incidentally. It's the comfort. How are you going to be? Can you be comfortable with it? Just some general rules of thumb. The higher the return, the more the volatility, the more it's going to fluctuate. Okay. So if you're shooting for returns of 9, 10, 11%, I know a lot of people are going to shoot for 12 to 15 because they heard that was possible. That's possible for a while, but eventually a fund that puts up that kind of track record is going to get so big because it's so popular, it's going to slow down. So a 9 to 10% rate is really tough to maintain over an incredibly long time, over a long time period, not incredibly long, but over a long time period. And the vast majority of them that do it are typically looking at what's going on inside that company. How fast are the sales growing? Is the company generating profits. And this is something that I thought would have been here by now, like a long time ago. And one of the reasons that I left to start my practice way back in 2004. And I've been in the business since the late 1980s, but I left to start my own practice in 2004. And I thought for sure these funds were going to be here before now. And a lot of them, most of the ones that I think are really good are only about 4 or 5 years old. And I recognized the algorithms that they're using. Algorithms it's math. It's how much of an increase in revenues do you have? You can rank companies by those that are growing the fastest. What are your profit margins like? You can rank companies by profitability. And there are bunches of different ways of calculating that. But there's an excellent one that I was running a model of stocks using almost the identical criteria, and there was a lot of turnover. When you're looking at what goes on inside of a fund, one of the benefits of using a fund instead of using the stocks is if you know what the fund is doing, that's great. You are like 1 out of 100 investors, I promise. If you actually know what they're doing with the money, and it's very calming. When the markets have big fluctuations, where they are now, you look back and say, okay, we've seen this before. I've seen it a ton of times. And the main idea is that the fund is enforcing the discipline. The fund it's actually a computer program. It only knows to respond when the conditions are correct. There's no emotion involved, and that's one of the reasons I think that they do a whole lot better. And if you wanted to try to beat that fund's long-term performance, you'd probably use this very similar characteristics of stocks that you're looking for, those that are growing, those that are generating lots of cash. And then you'd look at stocks, and you just hold fewer stocks than the fund is going to hold. Instead of holding the top 100, maybe you hold the top 40. And the Dow Jones has only got 30 stocks in it. So there's plenty of diversification. And you only have to follow that, one ticker. If you like to do the individual stocks, stay tuned, because I'm working on being able to introduce that to anybody that wants it, and my client base in particular, because I know that the opportunity to generate slightly higher returns is there, and we're doing something about it. So I'm going to try to make that available. It's going to be several weeks from now because it's a lot of work. But the bottom line is I think everybody's going to really appreciate it, and we will be rolling that out to just about everybody. So stay tuned. I'll keep you posted. There was another thing. Oh, on my website, I hired a service to go out and scour the big financial publications to find out which articles are being read most by their readers. That's one of the nice things about internet. One of the creepy things too is that they know what you're reading, and at least they have a good idea if you're spending a lot of time on the website where the articles are popping up, and they can measure that. And so I just take a look, and the service I have says, okay, these are the articles that people are reading. And one of them I thought was really interesting was when a partner passes. Now, you can, if you decide that you want to talk about this, again, just feel free to give me a call or hit me up with an email. It's bill@bullington.com. And I will definitely send you this article. And if you want to talk about it, we can talk about it. So anyway, I'll go on to the article. And it says, when you lose a spouse, partner, or parent, the grief can be overwhelming. In the midst of that grief, life goes on. There are arrangements to be made, things to be taken care of, and in recognition of this reality, here's a checklist you may find useful at such a time. First, gather documents. Ask help from other family members if you need it. You probably will, by the way. The business that I'm in, most people don't accumulate a lot of money until they're older. So I see a lot of this, a lot of elder care. I'm working on getting some experts in that field on my show here in the future. But there's a lot. Anyway, I thought this article was really good by suggesting that you would start by gathering the following: a will, trust, or other estate documents. If you have a will, you have a trust, and other types of documents you might need, there's a ton of them, then you might want to get them digitally copied and digitally signed, and it's a lot easier to put those up on your own personal digital vault, so to speak. And so you copy those documents. It's great to have them, but it's also, some of them you actually need to have because you have to have signatures and all that kind of stuff. That sooner or later that'll all be digital, but today it's mostly digital. You still have to save some documents because they have to be signed and guaranteed, and there's all kinds of other stuff there. But anyway, I was just told I just have about 60 seconds before I have to take a commercial break. So we're going to finish this article as soon as I come back. This is Bill Bullington right here on 1420. I'll be back after these commercial messages.
Well, I've been turned round, but I've never been lost. Seen the water get troubled, but we walked across.
Bob Brantz here, and if you are dealing with a leaky roof, we should probably take care of that sooner rather than later, don't you think? Quick call to Sky Roofing will get it done. 440-349-6750. Look, there are a lot of roofing companies out there that want your business, but this isn't something you want to trust to a fly-by-night company. Sky Roofing is in it to stay. They've been serving Ohio homeowners like you and me for 24 years. That means they're doing it right by the roofs they repair, the roofs they replace, and the people that they serve. The pros at Sky Roofing have pledged to treat your roof like it was one of their own homes. So if your roof is in disrepair, maybe you've got some gaps in the shingles, call Sky Roofing. And if your roof has been good to you, but it's just that time that all homeowners face and you have to replace it, call Sky Roofing. Check out their work and the testimonials at the user-friendly website skyroofinginc.com. Then make that call, 440-349-6750. Call today, get a great quote, and treat your roof the way you need your roof to treat you. Sky Roofing is roofing done right.
America is kept safe because the Army National Guard responds, protects, and supports our nation when it needs them most. The Army National Guard responds to disasters such as wildfires and floods. They protect us with missile defense, cybersecurity, and civilian support teams for chemical, biological, and radiological hazards. Be there for your community and your country. Visit NationalGuard.com to learn more about part-time service. Sponsored by the Ohio Army National Guard. Aired by the Ohio Association of Broadcasters and this station.
No doubt about it, we're spending more time at home, which is the perfect time to make it more functional and beautiful. Hi, Ed Flash Ferentz here for Artistic Renovations, Northeast Ohio's premier and award-winning remodeler. Artistic did a fantastic job with our kitchen in 2016, and last year, they were back for the master bath. Oh, my word. Do yourself a favor and go to artisticreno.com. Believe me, you'll love their ideas and without question the finished product. For a virtual consultation, call 216-520-0838 or visit artisticreno.com.
You've heard the saying, all good things come to an end. Well, not always. Sometimes they just take a break. That's what's happening with Our Lady of the Wayside's car donation program after 24 years and 96,000 rides donated. Pretty amazing. Here's the story. The car lot's owner has sold the property, making it impossible for car donations to be accepted at this time. According to the Wayside CEO, Terry Davis, the next right steps will be determined and communicated soon, so stay tuned. In the meantime, Terry and the entire team at the Wayside thank you for your continued support of the 450 individuals with developmental disabilities in the Wayside's care. And please take note, you can still support them by making a donation at thewayside.org. Thinking about updating your home? Well, Joyce Factory Direct specializes in replacing old, outdated windows. Proudly made right here in Cleveland, Joyce Windows features their exclusive Smart Shield high-performance glass, which means you'll be getting the most energy-efficient windows for your home directly from the factory. Customers just love how much warmer their house is and how easy their new windows operate and clean. Right now, you can save 50% on all installations. Just call to schedule a free consultation with on-the-spot pricing, 440-243-5700, or visit joycefactorydirect.com.
Every time I try to make it on mine.
Well, welcome back. This is Bill Bullington. I'm here every Saturday morning from 11 to noon. And if you hear something that you'd like more information on, you'd like a copy of something I'm reading from, just go to my website. It's bullingtoncapital.com. Bill at bullingtoncapital.com is my email address. And I'll try to get to you as quick as I can. And let's see. So I'm reading from this article, and this one went out to my entire client base and anybody that signed up for the newsletter. And I really liked this one. I thought this was, from the service that I use, this is one of the more useful articles that they've suggested in a very long time period. And it's basically, how to set your estate plan up. And man, I got to tell you, it comes to mind so many times. And when you're in the business that I'm in, the vast majority of people don't have millions of dollars. And those that do, by the way, are, in my experience, they're a little more unlikely to have this stuff done. And it just makes a hard time in everybody's life a little bit more difficult. And so if you don't really like your family, then don't do anything. Just let them struggle. But if you care about your family, you might want to listen up and do some of these things for them so that it makes it as easy as possible when you're no longer here. Anyway, so the article goes to, it starts out by saying, when you lose a spouse, partner, or parent, the grief can be overwhelming. In the midst of that grief, life goes on. There are arrangements to be made, things to be taken care of, and in recognition of this reality, here's a checklist you may find useful at such a time. First, gather documents. Ask help from other family members if you need it. Start by gathering the following: a will, a trust, or other estate documents. If none of these exist, you could face a longer legal process when settling the person's estate. They are not kidding there. And you could go from a typical 9-month period to years. So having those documents is pretty important. A Social Security card number. You can actually get a copy or just get a new Social Security card and keep it. If you go to the Social Security's website, socialsecurity.gov. Anyway, the article goes on to say, generally, the person's Social Security number will be retired shortly following the death. If you are uncertain, consider checking with the Social Security office. Then gather these highly important items: any account statement, deeds or titles to real estate, car titles or lease agreements, storage space keys / account records, any bills or records of credit card statements, any social media platform information if applicable. Last but not least, look for a computer file or printout with digital account passwords. Prior to their loved ones passing, some family members may try to centralize all this information or state where it can be found. I use a password manager for mine. I've got way more passwords than I would like to have, but I can't do anything about it because it's just part of my business. And it is so I use a program called LastPass, and I've used it for a long time. There are a bunch of programs like that out there, and you're still going to have to do more than one password, by the way, but it's going to cut down on the number that you have to remember by quite a bit. And I can't recommend. I have no idea how I would be able to operate without a software package like that one. Anyway, In addition, see if the person left a letter of instruction. The letter of instruction is not a legal document. It's a letter that provides additional and more personal information regarding an estate. It can be addressed to whomever you choose, but typically letters of instructions are directed to the executor, family members, or beneficiaries. Next, take care of some immediate needs. Contact a funeral home to arrange a viewing, cremation, or burial. Okay, this would actually be for people who are very close to the end and they realize it. That was the first suggestion for that. Number 2, call or email the county clerk or recorder to request 10 to 12 death certificates. This is the once he passed away. A funeral home director can often help you with this matter, and it's been my experience that most of the funeral home directors are extremely familiar with this and are very, very helpful. I'm not sure how many times they don't get asked, but I would assume that almost everybody asks them, and they're really very good at helping you out with that. Anyway, counties usually charge a small fee for each copied issue. No kidding. The Cuyahoga counties and Summit County both do that a little bit. Anyway, 10 to 12 copies may seem excessive, but you may need that many while working with insurance companies and various financial institutions. And I would say that article is dead on as far as that goes. 10 to 12 certified death certificates, and you should be okay. 3, if the person was still working, you need to contact the human resources officer at your loved one's workplace to inform them what has happened. The HR officer might need you to fill out some paperwork pertaining to retirement plans, health benefits, and compensation for unused vacation time. That is incredibly important. I know that many people are leaving thousands of dollars on the table by not realizing that they should probably contact HR and go through all that. Anyway, next paragraph. Resolve to keep track of any recurring debts that your loved one has set to auto pay. Consider placing the monthly bills for these debts in your name or another family member or the executor. And that's something you could probably talk to the attorney that's handling the estate with. Notify creditors and credit card companies that were part of your loved one's credit history. Creditors may want to know when existing debts will be paid, either by you or your loved one's estate. You can also notify the big 3 credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion of their passing, which can usually be done online, over the phone, or by letter. Following these steps, address financial, insurance, and credit matters. Investment and retirement plan accounts and insurance policies should have beneficiaries. So, yes, should have. I can't tell you, all of our clients today, as far as I am aware of, this is one of the things that we are sticklers about. You have to assign a beneficiary, even if it's just that you just want it to go to your estate. That's going to be a little bit more expensive probably because it'll have to be probated. And when you put a beneficiary on a lot of accounts, it avoids probate. Just goes directly to the beneficiary. Saves you a little bit of money, so keep that in mind. Investment, retirement planning, accounts, insurance policies should have beneficiaries, so reach out to financial and insurance professionals who help your loved one as well as the person overseeing their workplace retirement plan. Talk with these professionals to learn about the possible tax implications from inheriting these assets. Yeah, I never experienced this personally, but I've heard through comrades in the business, other competitors and friends, where we're talking about how people got money out, spent the money, and then got the tax bill. That is something you kind of want to avoid. But anyway, state and federal taxes from their loved one will also need to be paid, and possibly other taxes for the year of their death. Remember that. Remember, this article is for informational purposes only, and it's not a replacement for real-life advice. So make sure to consult your tax, legal, and accounting professionals before modifying any tax or estate tax strategy, or estate strategy for that matter. If your loved one owns a small business or professional practice, a discussion with business partners may be necessary, as well as a consultation with the attorney who advised that business. Let's see, working through several of these issues may help bring closure to your loved one's estate. And so I really like this article. If you want a copy of this, just go to my website, and I will be glad to send it to you. My website's bullingtoncapital.com. You can send a copy of that article. And this is what I'm doing now. Instead of trying to remember everything that I talk about on my radio program, which as fast as I speak, it's a little difficult. I'm going to rely on you guys to say, hey, you were talking about an estate planning article that you sent out. Can you send me that one? So you should see some of the requests I get. Can you send me that thing you were talking about there 3 months ago? And maybe. But and by the way, if you sign up for the web or the newsletter, it's free anyway, and it comes out. We send it out. It really depends. Sometimes there's not a really good selection of articles I think will be helpful, and then others, all the articles you'll like look at it and I go, wow, that's very helpful. That's very nice. And so at Bullington Capital, mostly we try to advise people on how to accumulate enough wealth to be able to retire. And then when they get to that retirement stage, setting up the systematic withdrawals to supplement their income, taking a look at Social Security. A lot of people come in and they already have that stuff. That's great. And that's absolutely fine. To help you, if you're thinking along those lines, just go to socialsecurity.gov and get your estimate there. If you're a school teacher, just get your estimate from the retirement plans you have there, your 403B and TSAs and all the other stuff that you get. And the school has to give it to you. They can't hold it. So you take that stuff and give yourself a pretty decent idea of what your income might be. And I can tell you that from the asset side, people make this really complicated. They make it hard on themselves, and they come in really confused, and they're hoping that somebody's going to be able to make it not so confusing. And it's actually sometimes it can be pretty tough because they have so many accounts all over the place. But the vast majority of the time, it's not that hard. You have savings and you have sources of income. Those are the two main categories that go into projecting what kind of a retirement lifestyle you might have. Savings and income from work or a pension. Okay, and Social Security counts in there. And if you take somewhere between, I don't know, depends on how old you are. I have actually software that says, okay, if you're at the age of 70, this is how much you should be able to take out over your life expectancy and not run out of cash. Okay. If you're 60, I'm not sure how low this one goes. I think it goes down to age 45. But anyway, you want to have a fairly decent idea of what your current outlook is. And if you are looking at replacing your income, you try to replace somewhere between 75 and 80% of your current income in some cases, most cases. Some cases it's less, a lot less. In some cases it's a lot more. But anyway, just a ballpark. The vast majority of people are going to need somewhere around 80% of their pre-retirement income just to not have to change their lifestyle when they retire. And so if you can take 80% of what you're making now, and again, that's just a rule of thumb. Everybody is different. It's one of the reasons I have a job is how much do you think you would need to live on? And I don't know. I'll give you a sheet. You can fill it out. Help you do a budget. And that's not as common as it used to be, incidentally. A lot of people have a pretty decent idea of what it would take for them to be able to maintain their lifestyle without having to cut back quite a bit. So, and then that number, you just divide that number by 0.04 to up to 0.06. That's going to depend on your age and how aggressive you want to be with your investment. So I'm sure all this stuff is super boring. and that's what I spend most of my time doing, is reading a whole bunch of boring stuff. But anyway, these articles are not that long, and I think they're very helpful. And over time, we'll cover just about every topic there is regarding retirement planning. It's been my favorite topic for most of my career, actually. And looking forward, I'm never retiring. Outside of walking back and forth to my office, it's hard for me to get exercise. And so I like what we're doing, and it's always changing, by the way. That's the one thing that is absolutely constant, is change. And we're changing. I'm still working on building new models based on some of the developments that have been going on in financial markets for the past few years, and the past 10 years, I would say. And it's exciting to me because I think going forward, these things, and what I'm referring to is the fact that computers are running the stock market now. Most of the volume is being done by computer programs. They're not people that are actually picking stocks anymore. And being familiar with the algorithms that they're using, it's probably, there is an advantage if you have the ability to take advantage of the structure, so that you can be in the top 10% of all the professionals, because they're all stuck with the same basic rules. Stocks can only go up, down, or sideways. There are no other directions. There are certain things that can accelerate or decelerate that. So we'll start talking about those a little bit more on the radio show as time goes on. And I've got about 20 seconds here before I got to take a real quick commercial break. So I'll just tell you again, my name is Bill Bullington, here every Saturday morning from 11 to noon. Feel free to go to my website if you have any questions, and I will be back after these commercial messages.
Every day this never-ending pressure tries to take its claim over my heart.
We had water seeping up the drain in the basement, and that's always alarming.
She says, why don't we call Wyatt Works? And I was like, oh, yeah, that's those whistling plumbers.
Everything was top-notch professional, but friendly and personal. And I liked that. I think women tend to like that in a different way than men, but we both appreciated all of that.
Being an old guy, I'm impressed with young men who can present themselves like that.
I got to tell you, the one line from your ads that sticks with me is, I'd rather starve than do business that way. And then when your men came to our house and did that work, I could tell that was not just a line on an ad. That was what they really mean.
You guys lived up to your advertising.
They are men of a higher caliber. Definitely. Definitely.
Consider it done at WyattWorks.com.
Wallackadoodle.
More than 200 members of Congress are standing up for AM radio listeners. The AM Radio for Every Vehicle Act will keep AM radio in cars, because when cell and internet services are down, this free service could be your only lifeline. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress to pass this critical legislation now.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Do you ever find yourself saying, I need a vacation? Vacation Fixation can help. At Vacation Fixation, we specialize in all-inclusive trips and cruises to Mexico, the Caribbean, and Disney vacations. Why choose us? Our clients book through Vacation Fixation because they are frustrated with online trip brokers and timeshare scams. Whether it's a weekend getaway, a family trip, spring break, or honeymoon, Vacation Fixation will personalize a trip just for you. Want to know the hottest destinations in Cancun, Punta Cana, Jamaica, or Puerto Vallarta? Interested in room upgrades, beach reviews, or details about resort restaurants? How about finding a trip with a direct flight? At Vacation Fixation, we take all of your specific travel requests and shop our suppliers to find the best deal. What's the cost? Our suppliers pay us so you don't have to. Call 330-573-8147 for more details. Or you can visit our website at vacationfixation.com or check out the deal of the day on Facebook. Vacation Fixation.
Is it finally time to update your bathroom? Bath Planet, a division of Joyce Factory Direct, specializes in replacing and converting old showers and tubs into new, beautiful bathrooms in as little as one day. We have transformed thousands of bathrooms just like yours into a spa-like oasis that has homeowners excited to use their new bathtub or shower. Right now, all bath installations are 50% off. So call to schedule a free consultation with on-the-spot pricing. 440-243-5700 or visit JoyceFactoryDirect.com.
Well, welcome back. Bill Bullington. I'm here every Saturday morning from 11 to noon. Feel free to reach out if you have questions or if you'd like an opinion on how you're doing. You want to get a strategy together. Not a problem. The website is bullingtoncapital.com, and my direct email, is bill@bullingtoncapital.com. So. I was looking at some of the articles that we sent out this week through the newsletter that is free, and it's pretty fascinating. This one was from the Wall Street Journal. The headline was, "This doesn't look like an American recession, but here's how one could happen." Unemployment's rising, stocks are falling, and bond yields are well below short-term interest rates. These are all telltale signs of a recession. Now, this is one of the things where it bothers me a little bit. Okay? When short-term interest rates are higher than long-term bonds, that is not the indicator of a recession. There's a difference between correlation, that means when one thing is happening is another thing happening, and causation. That means one thing causes the other. Short-term interest rates don't actually cause the recession. They do make it more difficult because a lot of people borrow. A lot of interest rates are based on shorter-term interest rates. Home mortgages, car loans. When they start raising short-term interest rates, they're typically trying to slow the economy down. And so I guess, it's an intentional thing, and they're doing it with the intention of slowing the economy down. So they're not just raising short-term interest rates and not knowing what's going to happen. They're doing it because that they feel or they believe with all the data that they have that the economy is going too far, too fast, and is going to run into a wall. So they're just trying to slow it down. It doesn't always work. Sometimes they do have to raise rates so high that it does just slam the economy into a recession. Actually, I think the highest interest rates ever in the country's history. I was in my mid to late teens when they were doing that, and that was a trip. I mean, that was wild. I remember people talking. My dad was a carpenter subcontractor, built a lot of homes, and ran his own little tiny business. And I was working with him in the summer times, and I would hear the building contractors, the people that were the developers, the big developers. They were talking about how high interest rates were, and one of the developers who had purchased a huge amount of land and borrowed an enormous amount of money to buy this all these lots actually ended up going belly up because the interest rates went up so high he couldn't sell the high-end houses that he was building. Talk about rough. And this guy was in his 60s, when he was doing that. That is brutal. So you want to be aware of this stuff. Like when you're putting your portfolio together, Edmer, I had some people, no matter what you say, somebody's going to complain about something. And I had people complaining because you're talking too much about annuities. Well, let me tell you something. If I'm 68 years old and I've been putting off Social Security till I'm 70 because Social Security is guaranteed to go up every year until you turn 70. Then it's not guaranteed to go up anymore, but it probably will because they try to adjust it for inflation. But there's a guaranteed schedule that you get, okay? And at age 70, it's not guaranteed anymore that to go higher. It probably will, but it's not a guarantee. So I'm looking at that. Somebody that had started put a let's see, got to age 68 and let it stay there for 2 years. Turned it on at age 70. They got $8,840. That's a guaranteed lifetime income on $100,000. If they waited another 2 years till they were 72, it goes to $10,470. And then that number is guaranteed for as long as you live. And that's why these things are so important right now, because you have that guaranteed schedule no matter what happens in the stock market, no matter what happens in the bond market. You can turn that income on, and you get the schedule. Actually, there's a website that you can go to. You can punch your own birth date in there. If you're married, you can punch your wife's birthday in there if you want it to be joint. And it'll give you a projection of what the income that you could expect to get would be. And, once you have entered into that agreement, you're the one that holds the cards, and the insurance company's on the hook there. They've got to pay that amount that they guaranteed that they were going to pay. So if you put it off again, let's say you put it off for 2 more years, and instead of $10,470, it would actually be $12,605. The longer you put this off, the higher the guaranteed income gets. Why? Well, because your life expectancy is getting shorter. That's why. It's not magic. These guys have been doing pensions for well over 100 years, so they know what they can afford to pay, and they know how much they can afford to guarantee. And this is one of the higher guaranteed products. That's the thing about the markets. Right now, interest rates, short-term interest rates had gotten a lot higher than they were, more 5 years ago. But now, if the economy does start to slow down, they will start to cut rates. Okay, they will start to cut rates. The long-term historical average of interest rates is somewhere between 4% and 6%. Okay? You go back out over the last 100 years or so, it's typically the average, depending on which time period you're looking at, on bonds, especially government-backed bonds, which are the safest. It's somewhere between 4% and 6%. Has it been higher than that? Heck yeah, it's been a lot higher than that. Has it been lower than that? Heck yeah, we just saw that. And it stayed down below those numbers for an extremely long period. But if you want to use a benchmark, that's what I would stick within the 4 or 5% range, and that's why these are so important. And I'm relatively young. At least I feel relatively young. It's pretty hilarious how people look at me. And they're always asking, how old are you? I guess, I don't know, maybe it's my tone, or I don't feel 62 years old. It is hilarious. But anyway, one of the advantages of being at that stage is that I already have a couple of these. I'll continue to pick them up each year as I get closer. And I know I can count on just that income, and it's really nice. I mean, an awful lot of people say, well, how much should I have? Well, I would look at how much you're going to get from Social Security or other pension sources, and what you need to cover your basic living expenses. Okay, and then that's perfect. So if you've got all your basic living expenses covered between your Social Security or whatever pension you have and a guaranteed income, what a relief that is. And then the rest, you can invest in stocks. You can be as aggressive as you want to be. You want to be intelligent about it, though. You don't want to be aggressive just for the sake of taking on risk. You want to take on intelligent risk. And we're going to be talking about that in future shows, and spending a lot more time on intelligent risk taking in the future. And again, one of the things that I find is kind of funny, after all these years, there are an awful lot of listeners that still think there is a one-size-fits-all portfolio for them or investment strategy. And I have yet to find two people who are identical, especially when they're married. When they're married, they have their own mindset in most cases. A lot of cases, one person, and more being female, actually, will take over the investment side and just say, okay, so that's great. You're going to set the parameters for what you think your risk-taking ability is and how much you want to get in return on that. That's fantastic. In a lot of cases, it's male. Some cases, they actually work together. But I am not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to tell you how to do what it is you want to do. And if I see you doing something that I don't think is in your best interest, I'm obligated to let you know. That's probably not in your best interest. And we don't work on a basis of, I'm going to tell you what to do and you better do it. I'm going to crack the whip. Nope. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to try to listen, find out what it is that you're really trying to attempt to do, tell you whether or not I think it's feasible. If it is, I'm going to give you choices as to the best ways of reaching those goals, and I'm going to let you decide. And if you ask me what I would do in your place, I will actually tell you, but only after listening to what kind of risk taker you are, what kind of risks you've taken in the past, how familiar you are with stock market moves, and then we're there for the rest of your life to answer any questions you have along the way. At least as long as I live, and I'm in really good health. And my company my family has pretty decent longevity. Everybody lives into their minimally their mid-80s. Yeah, but so I'm not sure what else I can talk about here. I still have a few minutes left before the show is going to be over, and I would just again, I guess I only have about 60 seconds, so that works out really well. Anyway, this is Bill Bullington. I'm here every Saturday morning from 11 to noon. Feel free to reach out to me, bullingtoncapital.com, if you have any questions or just want to set up a phone call, have a conversation, or you can come into the office too. Anyway, I hope you all have a good week, everybody. Good luck and good investing.
You just caught another edition of the Bullington Capital Report, broadcasting every Saturday at 11 a.m. on AM 1420, The Answer. If you have a question and you'd like to speak to Bill personally, you can call him at 330-664-0700. That's 330-664-0700. Or online at bullingtoncapital.com. That's bullingtoncapital.com.
The preceding program has been paid for by Bullington Capital Management, LLC.